The Hisui region is one of the richest and most fascinating places in the Pokémon world, rich in lore that expands our understanding of Pokémon history. Pokémon Legends Arceus does an excellent job at offering the player the possibility of exploring a semi-open world with an addictive catching system and side quests that gave the franchise a breath of fresh air that worked so well that very soon we'll receive Pokémon Legends Z-A. In this Iceberg, we'll uncover the myths, legends, oddities, mysteries, unused content, theories, and more about one of the most unique Pokémon games ever made. Welcome to the Pokémon Legends Arceus Iceberg.
Say my name. EisenBerg. You're goddamn right.
Arceus' real form. We are able to catch the creator of the universe as a 10-year-old trainer. Of course the idea doesn't make sense, and that's because there is an explanation behind it. In Legends Arceus, we learn that who we thought was the creator of all existence is only a small projection of what it really is. This also makes sense if we consider that there are Pokémon more powerful than Arceus' projection, but not more than the real Arceus whose real form is yet to be seen. But how powerful can it be? If we consider it has the power to create existence itself, it's logical to think he has sufficient power to eradicate everything. So it's natural that it restrains itself while keeping an eye on its creation from a different or higher dimension. Ancestors. It is widely known that many characters in Legends Arceus bear a striking resemblance or are connected to characters from future and different regions. Here are some of them, if not all of them. You might remember Karen of the Elite Four if you've played the Gen 2 games or the remakes. She looks very similar to Sanqua with her steel blue hair, but on top of that, the fact you can find an Umbreon in her office as part of a side quest is a reference to Karen's signature Pokémon. It is also said that Sanqua might be related to Claire, as she also resembles the Dragon Gym leader. This connection gets stronger when the player finds weird clothes and a cape in her house. The boss of the Galaxy team, Commander Kamado, is an ancestor of Professor Rowan, as confirmed on the official Pokémon Legends Arceus website. These two characters are physically similar to Cynthia. Cogita, besides being a woman, also wears a teardrop-shaped ornament same as the senior champion and Volo's necklace. All three are well versed in myths and legends, and Volo's theme bears a striking resemblance to Cynthia's encounter theme. In addition, Volo's team is the same as Cynthia's with the exception of Arcanine in place of the champion's Milotic. Not only does Arisu of the Diamond Clan resemble Mars, who is also a user of Porogly and the Bronzong family, but their names are connected to gods of war, as Arisu comes from Ares, the Greek god of war, and Mars, his Roman counterpart. She also bears some resemblance to Ariana, Team Rocket executive whose Japanese name Athena is that of the Greek goddess of warfare and wisdom. Leon bears some resemblance to gym leader Clay, and if they're related, that would also link him to Lacey of the Blueberry League Elite Four. The first two characters are known for using ground Pokémon. Pecel, the leader of the Galaxy team's medical corps, resembles both Mira, sporting the exact same hairstyle, and a Pokémon Center nurse. Charm, the ex-member of the Galaxy team and part of the Misfortune Sisters, bears a striking resemblance to both Agatha and Bertha, not only in her appearance, but also in the fact that she uses a Gengar and a Raidon, signature Pokémon of both future characters. In addition, she comes from the Kanto region. Clover and gym leader Candice are very similar and are users of ice types, more specifically Abomasnow. Coin, another member of the Misfortune Sisters, looks like Saturn of Team Galactic and are users of Toxicroak. We know that Xylene looks like Cyrus, and everything points at the fact that she's related to him, as she says she would pass down the name and accomplishments of the team to her descendants, meaning that most probably Cyrus received the leadership of the team, which besides having virtually the same name, also has a very similar emblem. Captain of the Galaxy Team Security Corps, Zizu looks like Flint and Buck, also being a user of some of the Pokémon of the Elite Four member. Sappy resembles Cheryl and also Hapu from the Alola region given her size, rosy cheeks, and use of ground Pokemon such as Rhyperior, although the connections are not as clear as with other future characters. Caliba and Mina have similarities in their eyes and eyebrows, although this connection is not clear at all. Concept art of a young Caliba shows that contrary to Mina's fair hair, Caliba's is of a dark tone. Mai, member of the Diamond Clan, is almost a twin of Marley from Pokémon Diamond and Pearl. Besides this, Marley's Japanese name is Mai, same as the character of Hisui. The head of the Ginkgo Guild bears a striking resemblance to Volkner, the electric gym leader of Sinnoh. Besides, Ginter provides the mechanical appliances necessary to change Rotom's form, connecting him to electric Pokémon as well. Ryan and Riley look alike and are users of Lucario. Colza is similar to Gardenia both in their appearance and also in their connection to plants, as Gardenia is a grass gym leader and Colza manages the harvests the player requests. Anthe and Dara, a frontier brain in Generation 4, have similar hair and a good taste in style. Wulfric from Kalos and Crasher from Sinnoh bear some resemblance to Garrick of the Pearl clan. Hop and Leon might be related to Professor Laventon, or at least bear similarities, as Laventon displays purple motifs, matching Leon and Hop's hair. He also uses British phrases, and in Japanese he uses English sometimes, implying he might be from Galar. Isken and Nessa share dark skin, blue motifs, and also have a connection with water Pokemon. Paulina, member of the Pearl clan and a warden, bears a resemblance to Sonia and Professor Magnolia. Benny's green hair and use of Gardevoir and Gallade connect him to Wally. Tuli looks like Greta and Bianca. Melly kind of resembles Avery due to the long hair and hat, as well as the fact that the latter uses a poison-type Pokemon, a type which Melly is a user of. Choi, the character in charge of Jubilife Village's general store, resembles Karen in his hairstyle and glasses, as well as facial features. Irida kind of looks like May or Serena. Adamant is clearly an ancestor of Perrin, the photographer introduced in the Teal Mask DLC for Scarlet and Violet. Adamant says, "Time wasted is lost," and Perrin mentions that, "As we always say in my family, time wasted is lost." Chansey and Blissey heal you. Coming across certain Pokémon in Legends Arceus can be very dangerous. However, when it comes to Chansey and Blissey, if they see you have been hurt, they'll approach you and heal you. Copchu's reference. There's an NPC called Bryce that mentions Copchu, a Pokémon that not only isn't available in the game, but not even programmed in it. As far as I know, this is the only Pokémon mentioned in the game that isn't programmed. Shiny Ponyta. One of the most beautiful shiny Pokémon in my opinion is available as a guaranteed shiny in the form of Ponyta. This Pokémon is available with the research A Peculiar Ponyta very early into the game. This Pokémon is part of the many guaranteed shinies throughout the generations. Jubilife Village Theme Evolution. The Jubilife Village theme has a small similarity to the music of Jubilife City, but as you progress in the game, you can see how it ends up being very close to that theme in Diamond and Pearl. Take a listen. Spear Pillar Appearance. This entry refers to the fact that the state in which the Spear Pillar is in Pokémon Diamond and Pearl is the direct result of the destruction of the Temple of Sinnoh the main character witnesses in Legends Arceus. Moonlit Dance. If you choose to take on Mission 67 and you go to the Fabled Springs on a full moon night, you will witness a group of Clefairy dancing under the moonlight. The music playing is the same as that of the Clefairy dance on Mount Moon that happens in Gold, Silver and Crystal and their remakes. Maxie and Archie. At the Diamond and Pearl clan settlements, we can see portraits of Maxie and Archie respectively, at least people that look like them. Nothing is known about these two characters. Psyduck's reference. There's a group of Psyduck that are blocking the way to the Diamond settlement due to them having a headache, a clear reference to the Psyduck blocking the way on Route 210 in Diamond and Pearl. Parasect's secret form. While Paras is an autonomous being, or at least partially due to it having two small mushrooms on its back, these take over when this poor Pokemon evolves, but we are told that there exist forms of it without the parasitic mushroom that lie unmoving in the forest in Pokémon Legends Arceus. This means that without the mushroom, Parasect is not different from a tree. It's hard to picture what this Pokemon would look like, but thinking about the mid-stage evolution between Paras and Parasect might help. Dragon Gate. Longmen, or the Dragon Gate, is a location at the top of a waterfall cascading from a legendary mountain, a place where if a carp was able to climb said waterfall, it would turn into a dragon. We can see this represented in the game, as there's a lake where you can find a Magikarp, then a waterfall, and atop another lake where you can find Gyarados, the dragon-like evolution of the carp Pokemon. Pokemon can shrink. Many of us have thought that Pokeballs are capable of shrinking a Pokemon to a minuscule size, but in reality Pokemon themselves are the ones capable of shrinking, and Pokeballs use this characteristic to store them inside of them. This is what we were told by Professor Laventon. Maybe this also has to do with the fact that they can be stored as data in digital environments, but this really makes Pokemon even more mysterious than they already are. The Sea's Legend. Once upon a time in the East Sea, there was a Pokemon known as the Prince. A brave human asked Pokemon living in the sea to let them see the Prince. Mantike, Buizel, and a Quillfish with huge spikes acknowledged the human's bravery and joined them. Together, they set off in a boat over the sunset-streaked sea, sailing through the ocean gate stretched over the waves. News of this reached the ears of the Prince, who went to meet the brave little party at the seaside hollow. Although this seems to foreshadow the main character's encounter with Manaphy at Seaside Hollow in Pokémon Legends Arceus, in fact, this book already existed before the main character finds the mythical Pokémon, meaning that there was another brave human in the past, or that the book prophesies the player's character encounter. Sanqua's painting. The leader of the Galaxy Team Construction Works, Sanqua makes a painting based on the space-time rift where you came from. She says people might not be ready yet at the time of Legends Arceus due to how recent and frightening the event was, but that in the near future she'd display it. Considering what the event looks like and where it happened, it seems that said painting ended up in the foreign building in Hearthome City in Diamond and Pearl. It also resembles that image shown on your TV at the beginning of Diamond and Pearl and the remakes, when there's a special report about the red Gyarados. The Sinnoh-Johto connections. If there's a connection as close, if not deeper than between Kanto and Johto, that is between Johto and Sinnoh. The presence of the Sinnoh ruins speak of the existence of two groups of humans, one from Johto and one from Sinnoh that build the place, blending elements of the two regions. Arceus has the ability to create any three of the Pokemon of Myth at the Mystery stage, with the aid of the Unknown which, as I mentioned in my Pokemon Diamond and Pearl Iceberg, I believe to be the 1000 arms it used to shape the world. Another interesting connection is the shrines present in both regions, one in Ilex Forest and the other one in Celestic Town. I don't know if they're meant to share a connection with Celebi, or they're independent shrines such as the shrine in Unova where you can face Landorus. You erase your ancestor. This is a simple one. If you choose the female character in Legends Arceus, Akari doesn't exist. If you choose the male character, Raid doesn't exist. Ingo. Ingo is a character that debuted in Pokémon Black and White as one of the leaders of the battle subway alongside his brother Emmet. The fact that such an obscure character as Ingo is a faller remains unknown, as some people say that it was just a coincidence he ended up in a space-time distortion, while others took it as a hint to a Generation 5 remake, something that hasn't happened to this day. He makes a reference to HMs as something that exists in the future, but that definitely doesn't in Hisui. Something to notice is that both Ingo and Annabelle share interesting similarities, as both debuted as battle facility leaders in a different region and were later transported to another one without most of their memories. Sevi Kitchen. The Sevi Islands aren't exactly a place that is mentioned as others in different regions. Oddly enough, of all places, Hisui has a building called Sevi Kitchen, a clear reference to the Sevi Islands of Kanto. Out of bounds modern-day bedroom. A bedroom from the current era of the Pokémon world was found by Deep Game Red on Twitter. Apparently it's a unique room in the entire Pokémon franchise, and we can see modern day items such as a flat screen TV and a Pokémon Let's Go Pikachu edition Nintendo Switch. This was probably a place where the game would begin right before Arceus sent the player to the past. Outside of this bedroom is what is known as Area 11, an unused area with interesting textures that can only be explored by fusing it with already existing places. The Hieroglyphs Mystery. There are 7 murals across Hisui. In contrast to Unknown that represent letters and are relatively easy to read, the hieroglyphs here, same as the ones in ancient Egypt, represent objects or ideas. User Sky Cyrus and Adept Karen worked on trying to decipher what the messages convey. It's not yet confirmed that they got the intended meaning, but it's interesting what they found nonetheless. There are 23 Pokémon including Arceus, Dialga, Palkia, Arcanine and Cresselia for example. They can be assigned a couple of meanings. For instance, Dialga can represent time, period, moment, instant, occasion, and Arcanine a friend, companion, loyalty, among other concepts that can be related to the 23 Pokémon in question. I recommend watching Birdkeeper Toby's video on the matter for the meaning they came up with. You might be able to give them your own meaning. Cervicorp's emblem. The Cervicorp's emblem present on your uniform and at Cylene's office might seem familiar to a very select number of people, probably to those that also played Pokémon Battle Revolution, as that very emblem is the same present on the hat of the female character from that game. There's no information at all that confirms any connections between the two games, and most probably they recycled the emblem without trying to tie the two games. Volo came from the distant past. Volo has a vast knowledge of many legends and myths. He also knows about the ancient retreat, being a place most likely founded by the original inhabitants of Hisui. His clothes speak of an origin that isn't seen anywhere else in Hisui, but that somehow match the aesthetics of Spear Pillar, as he's wearing a garment called hiton, a form of tunic worn by men and women in ancient Greece and Rome. Also, his knowledge about Giratina, despite its statue and any traces of its existence being wiped out, might be a sign that Volo actually comes from a distant past. After Giratina is defeated, Volo says, "Someday I'll solve every riddle in the legends of Hisui's Pokémon, and on that day I'll stand before Arceus at last. No, I will conquer it, no matter how many years, how many decades, how many centuries it takes me. This could mean that Volo can live longer than any other humans, and that probably he was already around for centuries or millennia ago. There's a theory by bird keeper Toby that says that Volo could be using Giratina's realm, the Distortion world, as a shelter until the time to strike back arrives, as we need to remember that besides space being irregular, time doesn't flow at all in this place, giving Volo all the time he needs to take revenge and overthrow Arceus to reshape the world, a world that when Volo was young, he despised for bringing suffering. If the theory about Volo residing in the Distortion world is true, we might never see him again in the future, as Laventon tells the player that Volo told him that Giratina had a change of heart in regards to its grudge against Arceus for banishing it into the Distortion world, meaning that Giratina might never allow Volo again in its world nor use its powers to create space-time distortions. The man who married a Pokémon. A long time ago, there lived two woodcutters, Minokichi and Mosaku. Minokichi was young, and Mosaku was very old. One winter day, they couldn't come back home because of a snowstorm. They found a hut in the mountain and decided to sleep there. On this particular evening, Minokichi woke up and found a beautiful lady with white clothes. She breathed on old Mosaku and he was frozen to death. She then approached Minokichi to breathe on him, but stared at him for a while and said, "I thought I was going to kill you, the same as that old man. But I will not because you're young and beautiful. You must not tell anyone about this incident. If you tell anyone about me, I will kill you." Several years later, Minokichi met a beautiful young lady named Oyuki and married her. She was a good wife. Minokichi and Oyuki had several children and lived happily for many years. Mysteriously, she didn't age. One night, after the children were asleep, Minokichi said to Oyuki, "Whenever I see you, I am reminded of a mysterious incident that happened to me. When I was young, I met a beautiful young lady like you. I do not know if it was a dream or if she was a Yuki Onna." After finishing his story, Oyuki suddenly stood up and said, "That woman you met was me. I told you that I would kill you if you ever told anyone about that incident. However, I can't kill you because of our children. Take care of them." Then she melted and disappeared. No one saw her again. This is the tale about the Yuki Onna, a snow spirit from Japanese folklore that mirrors a story we come across in Pokémon Legends Arceus. A character called Mani asks the player to find evidence of the existence of a village in the avalanche slopes, as an ancestor of her is said to have lived there. When the player investigates, there's no trace of such a place, but finds a torn journal left by some Snorunt that reads the following. February 5th. I was on my way back to the village when a blizzard blew in. I decided to take refuge for the night in one of the mountain huts. I awoke at dawn due to some strange noise. Before me stood a woman garbed in a fine kimono. Our eyes met and her beauty stole the breath from my breast. Yet it is a terrible beauty, frightened to behold. I closed my eyes in terror, waiting for the woman to move on and leave me in peace. When next I opened my eyes, the woman had disappeared, leaving behind nothing but the driven snow. We find the Snorunt and the Froslass we need to defeat so that she drops the remaining pages of the journal. It reads the following. It's hard to believe it's been years now since, and I began living together in the village. I was flipping through my old journal entries today and happened to be reminded of the one I met once. In an odd way, she reminds me of the one that I met that day, but I remind myself that I live in the real world, not in a world of old fairy tales. Surely such things can't be true. January 3rd. Why did I do it? Why did I have to remember that? Why speak of her to my dear? I regret so much, but it's too late for regret now. It's gone. I have lost it forever. I know it. It disappeared, leaving behind nothing but the driven snow. Oh woe, why did I dare speak of it? If only I held my tongue, kept my silence, I wouldn't have ever been to know such grief. Do you remember how in the original tale the man married a woman who later revealed to be the spirit who vanished because he told her secret? Apparently this is exactly what happened in Legends Arceus, revealing to his wife about the spirit who turned out to be Froslass. It's actually such a nice implementation of the Japanese folk tale, especially because Froslass is precisely based on the Yuki Onna, and this is the first instance in which we discover that a man married a Pokémon without even knowing long time ago. Alder. What if I told you that the portrait of the man that strongly resembles Alder is not an ancestor of Alder, but Alder himself? We have a bunch of ancestors of present characters, but it might not be the case for the former Unova champion. Let's go back to Gen 5 and see why, but to the Japanese version. Alder is known in Japan for using old-fashioned Japanese, but there's more. According to an interview with Ken Sugimori in a 2010 article of the Nintendo Dream Japanese magazine, Alder carries more than 6 Pokémon because he never figured out how to use the Pokémon storage system. But wait, a trainer with more than 6 Pokémon? Who else besides Alder has been known for using more than 6? The ancient hero, that is, the character that was able to defeat Arceus 1 or 2 millennia prior to the events of Legends Arceus. If so, how is it that this character is seen carrying Pokeballs when they're a recent invention in Legends Arceus? This would definitely debunk this theory. However, we can also think the other way around. What if Alder does belong to the modern era, and same as the main character, he's also a follower, a Pokemon champion skilled enough to befriend Pokemon in an era where it was almost impossible. But how could we explain the fact that he speaks in old-fashioned Japanese and that he never learned how to use the Pokemon storage system? The only explanation I find is that he spent quite a long time in the past, and once he went back to present Unova, he simply got used to not having modern technology at hand, and his old-fashioned Japanese is a result of interacting with people from an ancient era. It's a very interesting topic I hope we can see in a future Pokemon game. Cogita is immortal. Cogita, a descendant of the ancient people of Sinnoh, is far from being an ordinary character, and it's one of the most mysterious in the franchise. Her appearance and teardrop-shaped ornament connect her to Cynthia, besides being a woman that has a vast knowledge of legends and myths. She makes a very interesting remark when you complete an amorous Pokédex entry. Her company, when I have the pleasure, is of great help. She ferries me hither and yon across Hisui, but I'll leave her in your care for now, I suppose. Even you can hardly expect to live for all time, surely, but she will be in your care for now. Notice how she says that an amorous will be in your care for now, as long as you live. Does that imply that Cogita is aware that after the young player dies, she will reclaim an amorous? Let's also analyze the fact that an amorous is known as the god of spring, an entity the author of the old verses is friends with. And who is that also has a friendship with an amorous? That is Cogita, and since the game tells you that all the old verses look like they were written by the same author, this means that most probably Cogita is the author. Now, let's go through some of the verses without losing sight of their name, the old verses. Old verse 2. O you who at the world's far-off end dwell, I know your wish. It is my wish as well. My own beloved is now gone from me, departed to a place I cannot reach. My old companions have left me behind, their faces faded into days gone by. Old verse 12. Wintry, austere, brimming with strange power, certainly the land of Hisui bears some resemblance to Sinjo. Here, where the ancient Sinnoh people were born, I will spend an eternity, until the one with the mission appears. How is it that a woman that doesn't look older than Cynthia could have written what resemble very old if not ancient writings? This means that either Cogita has a long lifespan or she's immortal. And there's a very interesting theory proposed by a YouTuber called Captain Fidget that states that the Colossus War from 3000 years ago happened between this region and Sinnoh, and that Cogita lived in Sinnoh in ancient times and survived the war, but was radiated with the same energy that made AZ immortal. And Sinnoh is suggested to be this region because in a scene of the Pokemon Generations anime, when the ultimate weapon is activated, the region seen receiving the blast has an architecture that resembles that of Sinnoh, meaning those Greek-like ancient temples with columns, more specifically those found in Celestica ruins, a place that, as its name implies, is in ruins. Let's not forget that Cogita mentions that the people who lived there existed a millennium or two ago from the point of view of Legends Arceus. The ancient retreat where Cogita lives isn't that far from Celestica ruins, so it's quite possible that she was able to survive the destruction of the place and be exposed to the energy that would grant her immortality, or at least a long lifespan. There's no mention of the region that Kalos faced 3000 years ago, but if there's a chance to expand more on that lore, Legends Z-A might be the key. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the Eisenberg experience as well, since we've already posted a video about the Paris 2024 Olympics, and we're planning to upload more icebergs about basically any topic. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one.